You probably use it dozens of times a day without even thinking about it. But have you ever really stopped to consider the word some? We're going to unpack the surprising power of this little four-letter word.
I mean, how complex can it be, right? Well, on the surface, it seems totally straightforward, but that simplicity is exactly what makes it so useful. And yeah, sometimes a little bit tricky.
At its very core, some is all about an approximate amount. It's not specific, you know it means more than a couple, but it's definitely not a whole lot. And this idea, this comfortable in-between space, is the key we're going to keep coming back to.
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at how simple the word seems. Then we'll clear up the whole some versus some thing. After that, we'll dive into the 4 different jobs some can do, check out some powerful phrases, and then tie it all together.
Okay, so what does an unspecified amount actually mean in a real conversation? Well, it turns out it all comes down to context.
Think about it. If your friend asks for some money, you're probably not going to hand them a $500 bill, but you're also not going to give them a quarter. That one little word creates a shared understanding. It lives in that comfortable middle ground.
All right, before we go any further, let's tackle the #1 point of confusion head-on. Some versus some. They sound identical, and that's where the trouble always starts.
So yeah, they sound the same, but their meanings are worlds apart. SOM, our word, is all about that fuzzy, approximate amount. But SUM, well, that's about being specific. It's either a particular amount of cash, or it's the total you get when you add things up. One's vague, the other's exact.
Now for the really fun part. This is where we see that some is a true linguistic chameleon. It completely changes its job based on where it is in a sentence. It has 4 different faces, so let's break them down.
First up, some can be a pronoun. And remember, a pronoun just stands in for a noun. So when it's a pronoun, some takes the place of an unspecified group of people or things.
When you hear this, the word some is just a shortcut for some people or some guests. We don't know if it's 3 people or 6, just that a portion of the group has already headed out.
Okay, face number 2, some as a determiner. A determiner's job is to come before a noun and tell you how many. And some does just that, but you guessed it, without giving you a precise number.
This is a perfect example. The person listening knows you don't need every single chair in the building, but you probably need more than one. It conveys that perfect, useful, in-between amount.
All right, this next one is a little surprising. Did you know some can also be an adverb? I know, right? In this role, it doesn't describe a thing. It actually describes an action. It tells you to what extent something happened.
See how that works? We're not saying he grew 5 inches. We're saying the growth was real. It was noticeable. The word some is modifying the verb grown. He grew to some degree. And that brings us to the 4th and final phase, some as an adjective. As an adjective, its job is to modify a noun, usually by singling out a particular but still unspecified group from a larger one.
This famous line from George Orwell is the absolute best example. Some isn't just about quantity here. It's modifying animals to create this special, distinct, privileged group without ever having to name them. It's incredibly powerful.
So we know some is powerful on its own, but things get even more interesting when we start pairing it with other words.
I mean, look at these two. They're basically opposites. And then some means you've got more than enough, a whole lot. But somewhat means just a little bit. It's amazing how one phrase can amplify the meaning and the other can tone it way down.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let's boil it all down. What's the crucial thing to remember about this powerful little word?
Here's the bottom line. Some is your go-to word for approximation. It's a grammatical chameleon. It can be a pronoun, determiner, adverb, or an adjective. Just remember, SOM is not the same as SUM. And by adding a few words, you can turn its meaning into a lot or just a little. Mastering these uses will make your English so much more precise and natural.
It's pretty incredible how much depth can be packed into a single 4-letter word, isn't it? It really makes you wonder, what other linguistic gems are just hiding in plain sight in the words we use every day?